Welcome to the Tourpreneur Podcast. Travel industry veteran Shane Whaley will take you on a journey with fellow tourpreneurs, sharing their tips, ideas, insights, and success stories to inspire you to make your tour business the best it can be. And now, please welcome your host, Shane.
And it just drives me crazy to go to these trade shows and see these emails flying backwards and forwards. So there's a better way, and the better way is the platform. Call it a marketplace, call it a platform, but it's the efficient way to transfer information.
Those are the words of Christian Watts. At arrival in Berlin, he formally launched a company that he says will be a major help to the majority of us tourpreneurs. He is backed by Rod Cuthbert, who is the founder of Viator. Christian is well known in our industry. If you visited San Francisco, you've probably enjoyed a tour in one of his buses as he set up city sightseeing in the Bay Area. Actually, it was through running that business that he experienced the major headache of sharing all his tour content with all the resellers, OTAs, travel agents, and concierges. Sound familiar? I was keen to find out more and very intrigued to hear why Rod Cuthbert has got involved as a founder investor. They kindly gave us some of their time in Berlin to talk through their new offering and why they think Magpie is sorely needed in our industry. You can find the show notes for today's episode at www.tourpreneur.com/Magpie. And don't forget to sign up for our daily briefing whilst you're there. Both Rod and Christian are readers of our daily brief. So welcome to Tourpreneur, Christian.
Yeah.
And Rod. Here we just come back from arrival. The day after arrival, you guys are ready to get off to ITB. And you caused something of a stir this week. You had a big announcement for us regarding Magpie Travel. You were the media darlings yesterday. I saw you in all my feeds. Travel veterans launching a new service. So Christian, maybe you could start by sharing with us, what exactly is Magpie Travel?
Yeah, well, we're really excited. We just launched this week. So it's actually quite a simple solution. It's for tours and activities sector specifically, and it's for product content. So I've been an operator for 20 years running bus tours around San Francisco. So over the years, we've just come across some problems with trying to sell our tours and activities to the market, to online travel agents, to standard travel agents, to concierges and others. And typically what we do is we go to a trade show, we might have a dozen, 50, 100 meetings with these people. And then the week after the trade show, we follow up, we send them an email, and we send them a Word doc as an attachment with all our descriptions of our products. We send them an Excel file with prices. We send them a link to Dropbox with all our images. And on the other side of that, they have to receive all that, open the attachment, find all these descriptions. So we're just trying to get all of that content in one place. So we have an online portal, an online platform where any tours and activities operator can log in, upload their content, save it in one place, and then point everyone to that place to find it.
If I understood correctly, this is not getting involved with pricing and inventory. This is purely content, correct?
That's right. Yeah, there's a lot of, I call them res companies, res tech companies, people who provide that reservation service. They provide sort of the back end, the tools to run your tour company. That gets really complicated. There's some great tools out there. There's a lot of good companies doing that. They handle the pricing, they handle the availability, they handle the reservations and the customer lists and all that side of it. Mm-hmm. So we don't need to touch that. These guys are doing a great job. We're just trying to provide a little solution over on the side.
It's a great time to launch because at arrival, you got to meet lots of tourpreneurs, lots of people in the industry. What was the reaction to the launch of Magpie yesterday?
It's great. I've spoken about this conceptually for a couple of years, throwing the idea out, and now we've actually launched. It's just great to hear the reaction. I go through and explain what we are, and everyone says, yeah, we send Word docs. We struggle with this. We have a full-time person or 3 full-time people just updating content. So everyone recognizes immediately the problem. Our next job now is to execute and get people to actually use it. So, but the reaction has been amazing.
Rod, may I ask you how you got involved with this?
I went along to the Arrival conference in Las Vegas last year, and by chance, I was coming down the escalator after a cocktail party on, I think it was the Monday night, and I looked across, and there was Christian, who I'd known for 20-odd years.
How did you guys know each other previously?
Well, in the early days of Viator, we were based in San Francisco and we cared a lot about operators in San Francisco. Christian actually wasn't one of our operators. Right. He wasn't one of the chosen ones. We had a curated model at that stage and we curated him out. But we remained friends. And it wasn't too long until he entered the fold and he became a Viator customer. So I'd known him briefly, but of him for a long time, and we'd had a few drinks in the past. And so we caught up and he told me about Magpie, which wasn't called Magpie. He called it Tour Connect, I think.
Travel Connect. Yeah.
Travel Connect was the name he had for it, which I immediately said was just a really lousy name. And from my experience, I realized that this was also a significant problem on the reseller side. To give you an example, and Christian used the example of going along to a trade show, I would go over to the product team after a trade show and I'd say, gee, I liked such and such a product. When's that going to be up? And they'd shake their head and they'd say, come back in a month's time or two, because they've got dozens and dozens or maybe even 100 operators that they want to onboard. And they're dealing with that, what I would call a dog's breakfast of Word files and Excel files, some of which were old versions of Word, or the file was corrupt and they had to have a back and forth with the operator. It is a thankless task dealing with product content in this very manual manner that the industry does it now. So I immediately saw that there were significant benefits for the reseller channel. And I also understood, and I think this is a really important point, TripAdvisor's move to go to a marketplace where they're going to, or they have been dramatically increasing the number of operators and products that are available online, is dragging along many of the others. Some are going in a different direction. Get Your Guide is curated, but I think we'll see an enormous amount of product being ingested by the reseller community, and it can't do it. It's sort of a content crunch that's happening because the operators need to manage the sending of all this data and the resellers need to onboard it. And it's just the manual process that's in place now it just can't cope with that volume. So I convinced Christian that we really should turn this into a classic sort of SaaS startup, that I could get together some investors fairly quickly and that I'd like to get involved because I thought I could add something in terms of perspective from the reseller channel. So I was very lucky to be on the escalator at the right moment.
I think you want to say you're very lucky to be at a cocktail party. See, that's the important bit, isn't it?
Well, look, at Viator, the writing instructions we gave to anybody who went along to the conference was be the last person at the bar, because you can do a lot of good deals when the person on the other side of the deal has had a couple of drinks.
Impressive. And I have to say, I didn't go to the arrival party this week. You guys know I was on the panel the next day. So I thought, I'm going to go to bed early. I'm going to have a beer, a nice meal, and go to bed early. And my former boss, Rachel Howes, who was my mentor at Booking.com, was probably shaking her head because she taught me how to drink. And she taught me how to drink and do business at the same time.
Yeah,
but
a lost opportunity when you don't go to the function.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So in terms of, I'm understanding how this is going to work on the commercial side. I'm curious on the technical side, because you are both entrepreneurs. How did you get the technology set up?
Look, this is not, from a technology point of view, this is not rocket science. Mm. It's more a matter of somebody deciding to do it. Essentially what we're talking about, putting files into a central database and then disseminating those files to multiple points. It's frankly relatively easy as a technical problem. We know what the data requirements are of each of the resellers. You can just go on their websites and see what they call the fields. So that information is public. So we simply need to do this big mapping process where you figure out what all the fields are that everybody wants. And then when you output a file for instance, Get Your Guide or Be My Guest or hotel beds, you make sure that you've got the correct subset of fields for them.
And what's the reaction been like from some of the OTAs towards Magpie?
Well, we've concentrated so far on the operators. Yes. And it's been universally positive because everybody has this problem. And frankly, they don't like having to employ staff in what I would call administrative sort of revenue neutral roles. Yeah. They would rather have them in marketing roles or sales roles where they can draw a line between that role and increase bookings. This is just something they have to do and they wish it was more efficient.
It's a complete pain in the ass, isn't it? If you're honest. And, and I worked on the OTA side, both at booking.com and Get Your Guide. That's what I would hear. I don't have time to update my content. Hey, my tours are changing. I've got a new tour. It was always frustrating on the OTA side that you wanted the latest photographs of the product, but you weren't getting it because of the time involved in actually getting that from the operator.
Yeah, and it's a huge pain point. And we hear that from the OTAs that they set up extranets only because they've struggled for years to get any content, and their images are usually awful. And the updates. I mean, we did some product changes a year ago, just changing a few routes of the double-decker buses in San Francisco, and they're changing a few stops. And we have to send 150 emails. Look at this description, this changed to this moved to here. And it takes maybe 6 months for a year for that to get to these websites. Yeah. And then customers are unhappy. They've got the wrong description. They missed the stop, all these things. And it's just a bad experience all around. And it's unnecessary. Yeah. So now we have the single place to do that. And I'm upset with what Rod said about the devs. So now I've got to tell the devs team that what they did was really simple. So I'm going to make Rod take that back in a minute.
In terms of but I want to go back to the technical aspect, because you are both entrepreneurs. How did you go about getting the technical know-how that you needed?
So I've always been more into the tech than I know more about tech than about buses. I used to build websites and databases and that sort of thing. So I'm not really a coder, but I understand it. And I sort of get quite geeky about this product data and that sort of thing. So I've built systems and content management systems and that sort of thing before. And we're using a team in Czech Republic, who've actually built a lot of software for the bus company. So they built our ticketing system, and they've built a point of sale system. So they understand the problem. And we've used a lot of that technology and a lot of that know-how to move over to what we're doing. I mean, at heart, I'm an economist. That's where I go. An economist is all about efficient markets. And it just drives me crazy to go to these trade shows and see these emails flying backwards and forwards. So there's a better way, and the better way is the platform. Call it a marketplace, call it a platform, but it's the efficient way to transfer information. So that's what drives me really there.
See, this is the good thing about Tourpreneur. I get to find out your story. I've known you from so many events, but I didn't know you were an economist. Yeah. So we could have been talking about...
Hey, we can move on to, there's some economic issues around these days. We can move on to that.
Our listeners probably won't thank us for that. The name Magpie, where did that come from?
Yeah, so as Rod nicely pointed out, we've been out there in the market sort of talking about Travel Connect, and we discussed it in a meeting in the office, and we came up with it, and it was very generic. It explained what we did, but it was very generic. Nobody's in love with it, and we hadn't launched yet, so we thought that's fine. So after we had that meeting at Arrival with Rod, and he wanted to get involved, and he immediately said, "Your name's so." He didn't say it kindly. "Your name's awful. You need to change it." I said, "Fine." So he sent a couple of suggestions. And then one morning I wake up, Rod's in Australia, I'm in San Francisco, so I get emails in the morning. And he said, I've thought of some names. He said, what do you think about an animal? I said, a magpie is a bird that collects things, and we're a platform that collects things. So I said to Rod, you know where I'm from, right? And he said, well, no, you're a pom. It's what Aussies call English people, quite rudely. But I said, no, I'm from Newcastle, Rod. And my home football team are called the Magpies. We're black and white stripes. He said, well, that's really funny because my Australian rules football team are Collingwood, and they're also the Magpies. So we both said, that's done then. Let's not think any more about it.
That's cool. Yeah. But I also like the analogy of the magpie collecting things, because it's not just the name of your teams.
Oddly enough, though, it turns out that it's ravens that collect things.
Oh, really?
Magpies don't. It's an urban myth. But never let the truth, get in the way of a good story. We stuck with it.
No, I think it's a good name. It's distinct. And I like the logo that you have, which I saw on your press release yesterday. In terms of testing, so I think Stephen Otto from Walks was saying he tested out.
Yeah. Christian's been working with a bunch of operators in San Francisco that he's close to. Yeah. And we've reached out to a number of operators that we've met here, European operators. So we've now got a really good collection of people. What we've been looking for are operators who have a little bit of scale. So they've got a dozen tours, say, and they've got 20 or 30 resellers at least. So they fundamentally understand the problem. But more importantly, what we've said to them is, we've built a basic system here. It works, and it's got a base level of functionality. What we want to understand from you now, we want to have a two-way dialogue where you say, I like this feature, but what I really want to see is X.
Yeah.
Because we're in that early phase where the tech team can add functionality before we go to a full, marketplace launch in a few months' time.
So if I'm a tourpreneur listening to the show now, can I work with Magpie as of today, or is there that waiting period?
Look, go to the website and sign up for the beta program.
Yeah.
I suspect that in a week, we'll need to be going back to people and saying, we've got enough beta testers now.
Yes.
Because we've got, I think, over a dozen now.
Getting quick.
Yeah.
Well,
Getting quick.
Getting quick, or watch this space, because we'll continue to talk on the website about the sort of discussions we're having with our beta testers. And we'd love to hear from people who, want to let us know, well, I'm not in the beta program, but here's the problem I've got that I hope you're solving.
Did you know every weekday Shane curates the most interesting news articles in tours and activities and sends them out in a snappy daily digest? Grab your copy of the Tourpreneur Daily Briefing at www.tourpreneur.com.
Talk us through the price, because I know when you go to the full market launch, there's 3 different pricing levels, correct?
Yeah, there's 3 different pricing. It's a freemium model. So freemium meaning there's a free version.
Yeah.
The base version is free today. It will remain free because we want this to be a basic service where you can list your product, share your product. So that will stay free for anyone. And then we have a $99 a month subscription level. And then above that is enterprise. So the 99 and the enterprise are basically additional functions, additional tools. Things like having a central place where you can actually go and check all your listings. So if you're listed with 50 OTAs, typically you have to bounce around and search for those products and see what it looks like on one of these OTA sites. So just quick access to that. We can also do a check each night to see if they're still live. Often things don't get updated. Sometimes products drop off and you might not find out about it for a few weeks and your product's not been for sale. So things like that, image services, translation services are going to be a big part of it. So we're really at the stage now where we have these people testing the platform. We have the beta flag on it. Beta means that it's out there, usable, but if it's broken, don't blame us, tell us. And when we take the beta off, then we're responsible for making sure everything works. But it's there now, it works, it's functional, and it's already a good tool, I think, for people.
I was fascinated to see that you will offer copywriting services as well as part of the package. Can you share more about that with us?
Yeah, absolutely. We have 2 of these services already lined up. One is the copywriting service. So, one of the things that is a tour operator, there's large tour operators, small tour operators. When it comes to writing a description, I think a lot of people, there's a minimum, which is about 500 words, depending on where you're sending it. And it feels like writing an essay at school for some people. You get to 501 words and you put your hands up and I'm finished, and you submit it, let's get it out and never think about it again. And you don't take the time to do it right. But those words on that website are critical for you getting conversions. And it's not difficult, really, but it's not what these people do. It's not what I do. It's not what Rod does. So they're professional people that can quickly and actually fairly cheaply write great copy for you.
Yeah.
And because we can scale that over thousands of operators, we can get companies that can come in and write write hundreds of these things in a week, rather than go out there and find one specific copywriter, which is difficult.
It's a real art, isn't it?
It is, absolutely.
It's a real art. And I remember my time both at Booking and Get Your Guide, where they have their own house rules in terms of copy and content, which are probably different from everyone else out there. So then you're seeing your content presented differently. And a lot of the operators and hotels we work with were very protective over their own copy as well. So there was always a clash on that front. And I think what I like about Magpie is, you're right, a lot of our tourpreneurs are not copywriters. They think they have the best copy, but to work with Magpie and actually get that expert opinion and say, actually, it's better if you word it this way.
Yeah.
And not just in terms of, I guess, I imagine there's SEO copy as well, right? So that it's written for good SEO as well as to convince people to buy.
Yeah, absolutely. SEO is a critical piece of this, writing the right structure. And it's not that complicated, but there's a few rules. The other critical thing, which some people know, some people don't, but you can't write the same description for everyone. So if you have a description on your own supplier website, own operator website, and you send that to Expedia and Viator and Get Your Guide and all these marketplaces, you'll get dinged by Google on your own website. So you need to write different descriptions.
And let's say, for instance, I'm running a food tour in Montreal. and something has changed. So I'm not going to the famous Persian restaurant anymore. It's not part of it. And I change that in the content through Magpie. Will that then be updated everywhere? Or
So today, when we're fully operational, that will go into the extranets, into the system. So you'll update it in one place. And if Expedia, Get Your Guide, everyone has allowed us to update their systems, it will automatically flow through. And I think everybody wants that. It gets a bit difficult because they have to, give us access to update their systems and making sure that content remains reliable and accurate. But that's the end goal. So a tour operator, your Montreal food tours, you can change the restaurant one place, submit, and it goes out to 50, 100, 200 websites and it's done.
Sure.
Nobody has to touch it.
Brilliant. Is there anything we haven't covered on this conversation that you'd like to share with tourpreneurs that are listening in today?
Well, the other part of that content I didn't touch on was the translation services, which is very similar to copy services. And that, we all understand that we should get our content translated, but where do you go? Do you trust them? Do you just use Google? Well, we've tested Google and sometimes it's fine.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's not. And you don't know when it's not. And you don't know that this one tour description, maybe it worked in French and it looks fine, but the German version is awful. And actually nobody's ever going to buy it because you've made some critical mistakes. So we have human translators, an agency ready to sit and translate. Same as the content, we can do it in scale. Yeah. So we can send them thousands of product descriptions and have professionals sit there in as many languages as they need. So I think that's a critical part of the platform as well.
Very impressive. And where can people find out more about Magpie?
Well, magpie.travel is our website. We have the information up there. We have a style guide which helps them write these descriptions and understand how to do it. We're going to keep updating that with useful information for them. And they can sign up right on the website, obviously, as well, for our beta program.
Brilliant.
And contact us. We're more than happy to. We love feedback. We love to talk to as many operators as possible, hear their ideas, hear their problems, anything we can help solve with this. We just love talking to people.
Fantastic. Well, thank you for taking time out of your busy schedule here in Berlin to join us, Christian and Rod.
Yep. Thanks very much.
Thanks, Shane.
Thanks for listening to the Tourpreneur podcast. Be sure to visit tourpreneur.com to join the conversation and access the show notes, including links to the resources mentioned on today's episode. This is Tourpreneur.